Fox News Alert, you've no doubt seen the latest media hot take on Trump featured prominently in the pages of the New York Times. It was very hard to miss. It began with this headline that is no doubt laughable for even the most casual observer of President Trump's onerous schedule. The article features a bizarre analysis of the commander-in-chief's eyelids, describing an early November Oval Office event. The reporter writes this: Mr. Trump's eyelids drooped until his eyes were almost closed. I think that's called blinking. Maybe we should call it Blinkgate. The press dutifully echoed the Gray Lady's narrative.
President Trump's cabinet meeting and what appeared to be Trump having a little difficulty staying awake, seemingly dozing off during some presentations.
He appeared, it was on video, he appeared to struggle to stay awake.
If you call somebody Sleepy Joe and you either fall asleep or struggle not to fall asleep during your own cabinet meeting, you're going to get called out on it.
They just are allowing him to sleep in public.
It was a 3-hour cabinet meeting, and there was another press avail later, and then they demanded Trump's MRI.
Has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for?
Governor Walz asked you to release the MRI records.
Will you tell us what it was for?
President Trump yesterday said that he would release the results of his MRI. Is that happening right now?
And in yet another move of transparency, the White House turned over a letter with the MRI results from President Trump's physician. But that wasn't enough for the New York Times. No, they wrote, memo from president's doctor cites excellent scan but offers little clarity. Trump's doctor noted that the MRI was part of a comprehensive executive physical. And even President Obama's physician told the Washington Post that an MRI of this nature was not uncommon as part of an executive physical. And then the New York Post reviewed Oval Office logs and refuted the New York Times fatigue storyline, revealing that the president often works 12-hour days. That's correct. I've seen them firsthand. And in keeping with this long daily schedule on Tuesday, President Trump conducted a 3-hour cabinet meeting just ahead of an Oval Office announcement that every newborn child would be receiving a $1,000 Trump investment account. But this was not enough for the New York Times. Here's their headline: Trump appears to fight sleep during cabinet meeting. Really? This is the hard-hitting journalism the so-called paper of record is doing these days? Well, here was their headline during the Biden era: how misleading videos are trailing Biden as he battles age doubts. It's misleading videos. Can you spot the difference? Or what about this?
There was an aggressive all-out pitching operation from the right wing and from the Republicans about Joe Biden's age and how he was in decline and like sleeping in the Oval Office, a lot of which wasn't true. Trump appeared to be, shall we say, fighting to stay awake during a cabinet meeting. That's a very kind way of describing it.
I want to talk about the Joe Biden that Republicans want you to see and the pipeline of videos that aren't telling the full truth. Donald Trump is well known to make a lot of verbal gaffes on a regular basis.
Highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts. All this comes amid some comprehensive news reporting about Trump's decline, an in-depth analysis of the intersection between hard data and what we, the people, can see with our own eyes.
Joining me now, very excited, it's host of Ask Dr. Drew Pinsky. I mean, Dr. Drew, it was all cheap fakes and videos with Biden, and now Trump, I guess they're actually concerned about health now. They're concerned about him. Your thoughts?
Well, Kaylee, I got to say, for one thing, they didn't consult with a single physician. They could have consulted with a medical student and had them tell you the difference between somebody with Parkinsonian features and advanced prostate cancer and a man who is behaving his age. Actually, I can only hope that you and I have the vitality that he has at his age. I wish I could get by at 4 hours of sleep. Even now, 13 years younger than he, I would definitely fall asleep during a 3-hour cabinet meeting if I'd only had 4 hours of sleep and been traveling internationally all over the world. It's insane what they're maintaining. It reminds me so much of COVID, where these idiots became medical professionals and experts the moment they learned how to pronounce the name of a drug. This is a true miscarriage of their professional responsibility.
It truly is. I mean, I remember once I texted President Trump. It's about 10 p.m. I get a call back at 2 a.m. and then I call him back at 6 a.m. He's on the phone and then proceeds to text me. The man gets no sleep. It's unbelievable. Is this normal for a 79-year-old man?
It is not normal, and I wish I had that in my 60s as I am now. But they're making a meal also of his normal characteristic of aging. I could roll down my sleeve right now and show you something called solar purpura, the purple hand that they made a meal out of. That is normal part of aging. If I'm packing and I so much reach into the suitcase, I get the solar purpura on my hand and on my forearm. The other thing was the dependent edema. He's not a thin man, and so people with a certain amount of weight up here create gravity forces on their lower extremities that extrude fluids into the tissue of the lower part of the leg. That's normal. It's treated with, guess what? Stockings. That's how, and walking. That's how important these medical problems are, as opposed to someone with stage 4 prostate cancer, whom, by the way, they would have picked that up if they'd done a damn MRI on Joe Biden. So what are they talking about?
Yeah, it makes no sense. That's a great breakdown medically. I also want to revisit, we talk about Trump, what he does during working hours. This was on the debate stage. Joe Biden and Trump got into a little back and forth about their golf game.
I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Okay, so FoxNews.com has this new op-ed out. It's called "My Day Hitting Golf Balls at the Driving Range with Trump Revealed the Difference Between the Presidents." Look at this. The driving display the former president put on was jaw-dropping amazing. It simply was. Not only was he able to stripe his drives down the middle at will, but shape the left and right, all while consistently hitting them 270 yards and longer. At 78 years old of age, Trump is still driving the ball so far as many stars on the Champions Tour and some golfers on the PGA Tour. I think he's okay.
I think he's okay, but Kayleigh, if when we're showing medical students about medical syndromes, we show them videos. And if I showed them that video of Joe Biden with flat affect, mask facies, bradykinesia, hypophonia, cognitive slowing, if they could not, if a medical student, a second-year medical student could not identify as Parkinsonism, they would be remediated. That is very different than the person across from him, who is a man appropriate, in fact, vital for his age.
Yeah, and this last point about the MRI, an executive physical is different than what the average everyday American gets. He's president of the United States. So from what I understand,
yes,
these MRIs abdominally can be a part of an executive physical, extra scrutiny.
Yes, it's screening primarily for vascular disease, pancreatic cancer, hypernephromas in the kidney, and prostate cancer. Prostate cancer can be screened with MRI now. And the fact that Joe Biden ended up with stage 4 prostate cancer is a scandal. It is a scandal. The fact somebody in his position ended up with that should never happen. And I would argue, in addition to doing the MRI, they're doing the Montreal Cognitive Inventory every year on President Biden. Trust me, that would not have gone well with Joe Biden.
Dr. Drew Pinsky, love having you on. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.